Who is art culture for? From a working class background with relatively introverted parents, art definitely feels separate to my community. I can't think of many people from my community that actively engage in theatre and performance and art on a regular basis. The working class engage in comedy gigs and music gigs, with them being held in spaces that have strong connections to the working class. Punk rock venues, comedy clubs, social clubs, for example. There's a question to be raised about how we value art, who it's perceived to be involved with, who participates with it, who engages with it. It seems suspect that two forms of art that have high engagement with the working classes also receive very little Arts Council funding, if any at all. Is some of it rooted in the infrastructures in place and them not updating with shifts in society? Are these lack of changes an intentional one, an unintentional one? Is it that art that engages with the working classes is seen as a lower form of art or of less value artistically? It would appear to be different in attitude in Europe, many contemporary artists having tours in Europe for longer than they have residences in the UK. Is this a societal thing, an engagement with art on the continent that we don't see here? There's definitely a distrust of intellectualism within the UK. No one wants to look clever. There are negative connotations associated with being clever. The nerd, the stick in the mud, the lone intellectual. Art has a level of intellectualism associated with it, in some cases self-imposed and in some cases unfairly connected. Europe seems to have a much more open sense of asking where we are, who is our sense of self, and it may be this that gives people a deeper connection to art, which asks very big, deep questions. Art in the UK is trapped in a conservative view, enforced by the higher-ups and money men, when even current builds of theatres are constructed with the main emphasis being to put on productions of plays, with more experimental work and smaller productions being relegated often to the satellite spaces within theatres. Indeed, small productions are put on there, perhaps due to budgetary constraints, and already an art form which more working class companies or individuals are capable of making is already feeling marginalised, is therefore made to feel more marginalised within even the space of an art industry setting, and this marginalisation spreads from not only the participants but also the spectators feeling marginalised and pushed out of the arts world. This is on top of circumstances mediating on an inability to create the work due to, say, having a part-time job, raising a young family. Even just the lack of social mobility makes working class art harder and harder to make, and as a knock-on effect, harder and harder to find. There is a strong working class voice within comedy. Perhaps it's the point of easy entry, comedy's lack of perceived art form, maybe historically comedy being associated with the working class haunts, such as social clubs, cabaret bars and so on, that make it a place where the working class doesn't feel voiceless.